You know what they say about getting old, your hearing goes, your knees creak, and people start thinking you're invisible. Well, let me tell you something. I may be 73 years old, but I'm sharper than a tack, and last Thursday night proved it. My name is Margaret Hayes, but everyone calls me Maggie. I've lived in this same colonial house in Springfield, Massachusetts for 47 years, raised 3 children here, buried my husband Robert here 5 years ago, and honestly thought I'd spend my final years surrounded by love and laughter. I was wrong. It started innocently enough. My daughter Karen and my 2 sons, Michael and David, all came over for our usual Sunday dinner. But this wasn't Sunday. This was Thursday, and they'd called an emergency family meeting. Those words alone should have set off alarm bells, but I was too excited about having everyone under one roof again. I'd spent all afternoon making pot roast, Robert's favorite recipe that I still cook even though he's gone. The smell of carrots, potatoes, and tender beef filled the house, mixing with the apple pie cooling on the windowsill. Outside, November snow was starting to fall, coating the maple trees in our front yard with that first dusting that makes everything look like a Christmas card. "Mom, you really didn't have to go to all this trouble," Karen said when she arrived, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. She was wearing that navy blazer she only wore to important meetings, and her husband Tom looked uncomfortable in a button-down shirt instead of his usual Patriot sweatshirt. Michael came next with his wife Jessica. Now, Jessica and I have always had a complicated relationship. She's the type who rearranges my kitchen cabinets when she visits because it's more efficient this way, Mom Hayes. She kissed my cheek, leaving a lipstick mark I'd have to scrub off later, and I caught her eyeing the china cabinet where I keep Robert's coin collection. David was last, my baby boy at 41, still single and living in Boston. He at least brought flowers, white lilies, which I appreciated even though they're funeral flowers. Maybe that should have been another sign. We ate dinner with forced cheerfulness. I asked about my grandchildren. Karen's twins were apparently doing well in middle school, and Michael's daughter had just made the varsity soccer team. Everyone praised my pot roast, but I noticed they were eating quickly, like they wanted to get through some uncomfortable business. After pie, Karen cleared her throat. "Mom, we need to talk about something important." My heart started beating faster. At my age, those words usually mean someone's sick or dying. "We've been talking," Michael added, exchanging glances with his siblings, "and we're worried about you living here alone. This house is too big, too much maintenance, and with winter coming. We think it's time to consider assisted living," Jessica interrupted, and I noticed she said, "we," like she'd been part of raising me. I felt like I'd been slapped. Assisted living. I'm perfectly capable of. "Mom, you're 73, David said softly. "Last month you forgot the stove was on. What if something happens and no one's here?" "That was one time, and I was distracted because you called me crying about Sarah breaking up with you." I shot back. The conversation went in circles for an hour. They had brochures. They'd already toured facilities. Karen even had a real estate agent, ready to give us a fair assessment of the house's value. That's when I felt the chest pain. "Now, I'll be honest with you, I have a heart condition. A fib, the doctors call it. Usually it's managed with medication, but stress can trigger it. And let me tell you, finding out your children want to ship you off to some sterile facility and sell your home of nearly 50 years. That's stressful." I clutched my chest, and the room erupted. Karen grabbed her phone to call 911, but I waved her off. "Just help me upstairs. I need my medication and rest." They practically carried me to my bedroom, the same room where Robert and I celebrated anniversaries, where I nursed 3 babies in the middle of the night, where I cried for weeks after he died. David brought my pills, Karen fluffed my pillows, and Jessica, God help me, actually tucked me in like I was a child. "We'll stay downstairs for a bit, make sure you're okay," Karen whispered, kissing my forehead. I nodded weakly, closed my eyes, and listened to their footsteps retreat down the creaky stairs. Here's what they didn't know. Before dinner, I'd felt uneasy about this emergency meeting. So I'd set my phone to record and left it on my nightstand, volume turned all the way up. Old people paranoia, maybe, but as I lay there in the dark, pretending to sleep, I could hear every single word drifting up from my living room below. Is she asleep? That was Jessica. Give her a few minutes. The medication usually knocks her out. Michael. Then Karen's voice, clearer now, okay, we need to figure this out. The house is worth at least $650,000 in this market, maybe more with the renovations Dad did. My blood ran cold. Split 3 ways, that's over $200,000 each, David said, and I could hear the excitement in his voice. My baby boy, already counting his inheritance while I was supposedly sleeping upstairs. We have to be smart about this, Jessica added. The assisted living facility in Brookline costs $6,000 a month. Her Social Security and pension will cover most of it. We can use her savings for the rest. What about Dad's coin collection? Michael asked. I saw online that some of those old silver dollars are worth serious money. We'll have it appraised, Karen said, all business. Same with the jewelry. Mom never wears that diamond necklace anymore anyway. I touched the necklace around my neck, the one Robert gave me for our 25th anniversary. I wore it every single day. What if she fights us on this? David's voice cracked slightly. She won't have a choice, Jessica said coldly. We get her declared mentally incompetent. She forgot the stove, remember? That's documented. We get power of attorney, and we can make these decisions for her own good. That seems harsh. Tom finally spoke up, bless him. Maybe we should. Tom, we've been over this, Karen snapped at her own husband. Mom's not getting any younger. This way, she gets proper care, and we can actually plan our futures. Michael and Jessica want to buy a bigger house, David needs to pay off his student loans, and we need to save for the twins' college. They kept talking, dividing up my life like vultures over a carcass. They argued about which furniture to keep, whether to have an estate sale or donate things to Goodwill, and how quickly they could get me moved out. I lay there in the dark, tears streaming silently down my face, my phone recording every cruel, calculated word. These were my children, my babies, the ones I'd given up my career for, the ones I'd sat up with through nightmares and heartbreaks, the ones whose college tuitions Robert and I had paid for by sacrificing our own dreams. About 20 minutes later, they came back upstairs. I kept my eyes closed, my breathing steady. She's out, Karen whispered. We should go. Let's meet next week at Michael's to work out the details. They kissed my forehead one by one, Judas kisses, every one, and tiptoed out. I heard the front door close, car engine starting, and then silence. I waited another 10 minutes to be sure. Then sat up and grabbed my phone, stopping the recording. 2 hours and 37 minutes of audio. Every word captured. Now I'm sitting here at my kitchen table, it's 3 in the morning and I can't sleep. The house is quiet except for the old furnace humming and the wind rattling the windows. There's still half a pot roast in the fridge that nobody will eat, and that apple pie sitting on the counter that suddenly tastes bitter in my memory. I have decisions to make. Big ones. But here's what my children don't know, I may be old, but I'm not helpless. I've already texted my lawyer, yes, I know how to text, and we have an appointment Monday morning. I've also called my dear friend Patricia, who works at the local news station. And as for that recording on my phone, well, I think it's time my children learned that when you count your chickens before they hatch, sometimes you end up with nothing but broken eggs. But that's a story for next time.